Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Around the Payload. I am your host, the Blevins. I think it's episode 8, which I can't believe. Man, crazy, time flies. But like I said, I'm your host, the Blevins, and we've got a star-studded crew today. We've got a lot of returners and some fresh blood. I don't know why I'm cackling maniacally, but so let's get right into it. We've got Pesto Enthusiast, who of course was on last week. He's the founder of the Junkertown Journal and a lover of Pesto. Pesto, what's up?
Greetings.
We have Evan Ogden, who is the Esports Partnership Manager for Turtle Beach, first timer. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We, of course, have the illustrious A. Smith, the guest booker for High Noon Podcast and host of Foul Play. Hello.
Hello, good friend.
And, of course, the one and only Blazin' Bob, host of Watchpoint Radio and the OWL Recap. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me back.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. For those of you who are new, the show is basically a fake game show where I give out points and they don't matter. We're going to go over a lot of different topics. They definitely do matter. Don't let the host know that they don't matter. We're going over a bunch of topics in and around the Overwatch League and other Overwatch competitive related leagues. So let's jump right into it with the first question.
Round 1. Capture the objective.
So this week is obviously, for those of you who haven't been living under a rock, this is the big week for trades, acquisitions, drops, signings. Everything is happening this week. It's the sign-pocalypse, ad-pocalypse, I don't know what you want to call it, but it is big-time moves are being made. So want to talk about a couple of the teams that have made some trades, made some pickups, but we'll start with the Dallas FOWL. We've got AKM and Rascal coming onto the Dallas FOWL, which is these guys over here's top team representing. But we'll start with you, Pesto. What is the Dallas FOWL doing here? Are these signings good? What does this mean for them? Talk to us a little bit about these signings for the Dallas FOWL.
Well, your original question when we were prepping for the show was start 2, bench 3. So I actually think it's sort of interesting that it first pass, I think that they're pretty much overpassing, whatever. They're bringing in a new DPS. I think that this Rascal is an option for Genji. He's a very good option for Genji. They've very, very much needed any option for Genji that's viable since, like, Hale's been left in Apex Season 1.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great that they finally have a Genji, which means that they can run dive. But this is the former Envious team, which made a career out of bucking convention and did very well in the last tank meta. So with tanks possibly coming in, I think we could see a lot of tanks. So I'm going to go out and say Rascal plays most of the games, and then Effect and AKM split the other DPS role, with Effect playing Tracer when they need a Tracer, and AKM playing McCree or 76 or whatever else when they don't need a Tracer. I think Taimu is going to spend a lot of time on Roadhog in this patch, and I think that Seagull is going to be a player coach for Stage 2, and I think that he'll be waiting for Stage 3 when potentially Mei and Hanzo get buffed. Half a hero point.
True. Seagull's waiting for the meme comps to come in. But Evan, I want to get your thoughts here on Dallas FOWL, the pickups. What does this mean for Taimu, Effect, Seagull, AKM? What are these players doing? What do you think about them?
Totally, and I agree with a lot of what Pesto's saying. Now, I'll start by saying I think the FOWL's largest issue that they've encountered so far has definitely been their tank play. Now, to say that you can't fight fire with fire, add another star DPS into the roster, that might negate some issues and hopefully get them some more wins in comparison to Stage 1. I guess going back to the initial question, start 2, bench 3, I definitely think Rascal's going to see a pretty permanent spot in the starting lineup, with AKM and Effect kind of swapping off depending on whichever hero pool is needed for that map selection. However, I wouldn't be surprised if we see AKM maybe flexing off a bit on the D.Va and the Zarya back in like the Contenders Day or even back to the World Cup. He was seen playing some D.Va. He was actually playing some Sombra too. long story short, I definitely think AKM is a great pickup. I think he is going to be that kind of niche DPS flex player that the team really needs. But to say if it's going to really be the make or break, the catalyst of launching their success in this next stage, it's going to be tough to say.
Yeah, it'll definitely. I mean, we've seen Dallas Fuel throw good players on and it not really necessarily do anything. But Bob, I want to get your thoughts here. This is your team, man. What's the scoop for Dallas here?
This is my team, yes. And originally, I thought that when we heard about AKM, that they were bringing him in to play Genji, because he had talked about practicing Genji, and I thought that's what they were doing. And then they brought in Rascal, so I mean, he's going to be playing Genji if they're running Genji. So I think AKM takes a spot. I think it'll be more. I'm not really sure who's going to actually play the most. I think they're going to switch him out quite a bit. On the Siegel thing, basically, Siegel said from the start that he did not want to play a lot of games. He didn't want to start, and he played a ton towards the end of stage 1. So I don't think Siegel's going to be upset by not getting playtime. I think he enjoys coaching more. But I agree with a lot of the other things that everybody else said. One thing to note, though, do you guys remember that Rascal is the one that reported XQC and got him banned? So it's like
drama.
So like that's like instant drama coming in. Like I don't know if you guys remembered that, but believe XQC was playing with Defran, and it was his first in-game ban. Of course, he was playing. Oh shoot! I just lost points for saying Defran.
You sure did. You sure did. And then you said it again, man.
Could I say Mick Fran? Does that work?
It won't lose you points. Is what I'll say. But you've already done, Bob. I'm just going to stop you there. You've done yourself enough damage. And A. Smith, I know you've got some opinions here. Obviously, you're rocking the fuel hat. What are you thinking about? What do these pickups mean for Dallas?
Oh, look. When we saw AKM, we were thinking, okay, well, they're adding the 4th DPS. That's great. This is what they're going with, and obviously they were thinking about going a different direction, and then it seems like the Rascal thing presented itself, and London kind of put him on the market to trade, and that's too good of an option to pass up, especially with what you have right now as DPS. The start 2, bench 3, I think you're going to end up starting Effect and Rascal. I think Rascal's going to see a lot more playtime. I think you're going to see Taimu kind of move into the Pine role in essence, coming in a lot, when you want that special change up, or an Elios or something like that, like on map specific times where he comes in and he pops off, and then you got to send him out because he's been kind of inconsistent lately. Or if you want to run him on Hog, then you're going to have AKM, who's going to compete with Rascal, I think, and with playing time. But I think in the end, you're going to have Rascal in effect there. But I think and with Siegel, I know a lot of people are saying, move Taimu to off-tank, move Taimu to off-tank. Taimu has never played Diva or Zarya, like, ever in competitive play. Ever. You know who has? Siegel. Why are we talking about moving Taimu to off-tank when Siegel obviously has a lot more time on it? You move Siegel to off-tank, then you've got 4 DPS, you've got 4 tanks, and then you've got 3 supports, and hopefully we pick up another support. And you know what that means we can do then, guys? That means we can run internal scrims, and you know how much internal scrims are going to be really beneficial to people. This team will be able to see everybody practicing, everybody getting better. Kaikai is going to see who excels in what area, and the team's going to be able to hide strats even better than they do before. This team's a lot better for what they've picked up, and I think Rascal might end up being the superstar, and if he is, I am buying that jersey, sir.
For sure. The one thing, I just can't imagine that AKM comes on a team and, like, doesn't start. Like, he could have went anywhere in the league. I don't know, but
Yep.
that's for another time, I suppose. We'll see in a couple of weeks. But let's move on. And the next team I want to talk about here is the Shanghai Dragons. Obviously, we had the alleged signing before, but now confirmed, of Guguri, Sky, Fearless, and Ado. Notably, they're not able to join right away. There's some visa issues, obviously, coming from different countries, and working in the U.S. is not an easy thing, as we've seen in the past, but they are going to be coming at some point in stage 2, hopefully, for them. But Evan, I want to start with you. What's the ceiling for this team with its new talent? Obviously, they might be better than last place, but what are you thinking here with the new talent, the new signings for Shanghai Dragons?
Sure. I mean, we can only hope that. I mean, they really can't get any worse at this point. You know, I love it. You know, I think these additions are really great. I mean, Guguri, obviously, you know, aside from being an amazing thing for the league and for esports in general, she is an incredibly talented player. I mean, I think it was a stat, it was like 80% win rate over like 400 something games on ladder a few seasons back. That's almost unheard of, even with some of the other like top tier best players in the league. Aside from that, like Fearless, you know, it was Apex Challenger Season 5. So I mean, this guy has a lot of experience under his belt, especially with LAN play and competitive play on that type of level. Especially complementing, you know, Guguri's off tank. I think they're going to be a really, really strong duo. Now, Sky, I wasn't as familiar with. It's after not very much digging, you do find that he's a great, phenomenal, really well-known flex support player. So the Ana's in. I think flex support, especially in this upcoming stage, is going to be crucial. Another interesting stat from last stage: teams that were doing better than others had above average flex support players. So I think a really, really, really strong flex support is going to really be one of, if not the most important factors going forward, especially if, you know, triple tank, quad tank comes into the mix, which I definitely think it will. And then with Otto, you know, they're going to be the Genji specialist for the team. That's pretty much what he's known for. It's what he's always played. He's had some crazy Genji plays in tournaments in the past. So I mean, long story short, like I said, things can't get any worse. I definitely do think they're going to see some wins. I mean, it's just tough to say if they're going to be a top tier team. But I mean, I love an underdog story. You know, I would love to see them in the playoffs. I would love to see them go toe to toe with NYXL or Spitfire. I have to see it to believe it.
Yeah, you had me until you said you wanted to see him toe to toe with NYXL, which I gotta deduct points here. This is my show after all.
Just saying.
But I know, definitely a lot of good points there. But Bob, I want to hear your thoughts. What's the skill ceiling for this Shanghai Dragons roster?
Well, they're definitely going to get helped out. I've heard from some people saying Gengri is going to start pretty much every time. I don't know that I agree with that, but she is an incredible Zarya. I had that same 80% stat written down. She also got, you know, people claimed that she was aim botting, and it was proven that she wasn't. Sky like became famous for his sleep darts in the Nexus Cup series. So I don't know how that's going to help him here when Anna's not in the meta, but he could probably play the other characters just as good. Fearless, I don't really know a whole lot about. I mean, he could play most tanks, but I don't really know much about him. And then Ado can play more than just Genji. He can flex off quite a bit, and he is pretty good at Doom at Doomfist. So if that comes into the meta, that's going to be pretty big.
Yeah, definitely.
All in all, I think they're actually going to get a win.
You're shooting pretty high there, Bob. I don't know.
I'm saying it. You heard it here first.
Yeah, confirmed. Blazing Bob 2018 Shanghai Dragons will get a win. But Ace, I want to get your thoughts here. Are they actually going to ascend anywhere? Or are they just going to kind of muddle around the bottom like they've been?
Look, I think they've picked up some good players. I don't think they've picked up great players. They did pick up the best Chinese player in outside of OWL right now, and that's Zufan Jun, which is formerly his name. If anybody didn't know, it's Sky. He and Shy have been the best two flex supports, playing great Zens, great Anas. Moira hasn't been around, so we have no idea where his Moira is at. But he is an incredible player. He is going to start over any other flex support, easy start. Gaguri actually has a really, really good diva. A lot of people call her a Zarya one-trick. She's not. Her diva's great too. However, I don't think she's the best off-tank option out there. I think there are better off-tank options in contenders right now. It's great that she got signed and yay, women's rights, and I'm all for that. But I'm talking about skill right now, and I don't think she's the most skilled player right now for that team. That team could have picked up Late Young, and it would have been better because of communication. Also, Ado, he was a sub player on MVP space. He wasn't even a starter. That's really suspect, especially when you have so many other good Genji and projectile players that they could have gotten. Fearless probably was the best tank, I think, out there, off Element Mystic, and we'll see. I don't think this team is going to do nearly as good as people think. I don't think they've projected themselves into a top tier. I think they are still bottom feeders. I still think they're going to be last place at the end of the season. I don't think this is going to change a lot. They're still the Korean and the Chinese people. They have a very tough language barrier between them, and it's going to be very difficult for them to learn and figure that out. Once they do figure it out, which will be probably after stage 3, they're going to have probably close to the end of stage 3 is when they're probably going to have all of that completely figured out. You're not going to have enough time to turn things around. They're going to be last place in the league. You can mark that down now.
But do you think, along with Blaze and Bob, that they'll get a win in this stage?
I mean, law of averages say yes.
Okay, so A. Smith also think
they may get one win. No,
okay.
I mean they're bound to win because somebody's going to get sick, right? On the other team, and then
it has to line up in the right week, though. I don't know. But Pesto, last words on Shanghai Dragons. What do you think about this roster?
I'm actually more bullish than you guys are, but not by much. I mean, I think that their coaching staff, which has been, at least in the English-speaking community, pretty pilloried. They did a good job here because they identified the areas of their most dire need, and they went out and picked up people. It's worth noting that Sky doesn't turn 18 until February 22nd or so he wouldn't have been available for stage 1 anyways. It's good that they picked him up. I think that the whole not 18 yet thing really hurt the Chinese scene, but also the Chinese scene historically has been incredibly volatile. I mean, 6 months ago, the best teams in China are teams that didn't exist or folded 2 months ago, kind of thing. So it's like, there really hasn't been too much consistency of a dominant team the way we would see in Rogue or in Envious. So I sort of understand where they weren't great at putting something together initially between the age and the volatility. As much as it's good that they're improving, though, I think that it's also worth pointing out that almost every other team is also improving. I mean, who else is at the bottom? Gladiators has picked up people or is potentially picking up people. Mayhem has picked up people. So I think Shanghai should be aiming for a 10-win season. Take 2 wins in stage 2 after the new players arrive. Take 4 wins in the other 2 stages. They can get 10 wins, which I don't think is guaranteed, but I think it's possible. I think if they get 10 wins, that's going to be respectable. I think that season 2 is always going to have been better than season 1 because of the age difficulty. The thing that's important is going to be being able to pry away some of those young players from PUBG, which is streaming revenue for PUBG, if you're remotely good, is apparently quite insane at the moment. So can you get them back into OWL? And will they have been playing PUBG for so long that getting into OWL won't necessarily be enough?
So extremely bullish comparatively, but we didn't ask Evan. Evan, do you think that the Shanghai Dragons are going to be able to muster up a win this stage?
Yes.
Okay, so everyone is on board with at least one W for stage number 2 for Shanghai Dragons.
If they get 5 or 6 on the season, it's gonna be special. Just saying.
Yeah,
I disagree because I mean they came pretty close this stage without any of the upgrades.
It's true. They definitely did.
The longer they have no wins, the harder it is for every team going up against them because they don't want to be their first win.
True.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it'll definitely become a meme the longer. It will definitely escalate, and it's gonna be monumental. Like I imagine that the arena will erupt even louder than anything else when Shanghai finally gets a win. But we will talk more about them, I'm sure, as the stage goes on. Let's move on to another team which is very close to winless at this point, only having beat the Shanghai Dragons right now. And that is the Florida Mayhem. They picked up Say a Player, awesome guy, and Zappis, as well as their assistant coach, whose name is eluding me right now, and I didn't write down because I'm an idiot. But
Ryder.
I'm sure Ryder. There we go. So, in addition to the coaching staff and 3 additional players, Bob, I want to get your thoughts on the Florida Mayhem here.
First off, Florida said that they're no longer going to do the pool walkouts.
Boo.
Why give up the one thing that you were good at, guys?
Shame.
Why? You should
Shame.
I'm only
not
not
have given
complaining
that up.
because I'm already dead inside.
But I think the biggest thing might just be the coach Ryder, because they obviously do not have direction. They look like they're just running around like chickens with their heads cut off half of the time. They're not.
At least their walkouts look like that.
Got
him!
Amazing.
I wish I could give myself a point for that.
They're bringing Saya Player. Is that said right? Saya Player.
Say a player. I don't know. I'm probably saying it wrong.
And awesome guy. Both pretty much DPS as far as I can tell. Some teams might be transitioning DPS over to DPS like tanks, like Roadhog, Zarya. But anything to help Tavik not have to play 8 characters every match is going to help team win.
Yeah,
and I think the biggest thing was the coach.
Yeah, for sure. They definitely needed a lot of that staff. Although, for what it's worth, if Tavik could play 8 characters at the same time and be 8 players on the field, it would probably make a difference. But A. Smith, what do you think?
Not a big one. Oh, what?
What do you think about these signings here for the Florida Mayhem?
They got totally awesome signings, right? Because Awesome Guy is an excellent tank. And Say a Player is a really good, if not somewhat inconsistent, hit scan player. He will probably end up taking over Logix's role, and Awesome Guy will almost definitely take over Swoosh's role. Swoosh will most likely, hopefully, play some Genji. We'll see. Zappis can fit in anywhere with whoever's struggling. Do I think this is going to change them and drastically upgrade them? It'll make them better, but I don't think it's going to drastically upgrade them. A new coach is great, but he's not the head coach. He's the assistant coach. Mineral is still in charge. And so far, from what we've seen, Mineral hasn't put it all together yet. Hopefully, they're just slumping and they'll figure it out just for the sake of competitiveness. And I like the guys. But we'll see what happens. These players, none of them have their visas yet, so none of them will be in the States anytime soon. They're going to be similar to the Dragon situation, coming in maybe midway through the season. We'll see, but I don't expect a big change from stage 1 to stage 2. They'll still be struggling. Hopefully, they're not last.
Yeah, that is pretty ambitious, but Pesto, I know this is a team that's near and dear to your heart. So, what are your thoughts here on the signings?
I disagree. I think they're actually going to do pretty well. Not like winning a lot of games well, but a whole lot better than now. So, Seiya player, awesome guy, probably both definitely starters. I think Logic will have to earn his spot back, and it's going to be tough competition. I think Swoosh has an even harder, possibly impossible path towards earning that spot back. And I agree, I think he's going to transition to Genji. He was a Genji before, and it has not been Tvic's strongest hero since the Overwatch League started. I also agree that getting a coach is tremendously important. Even back to when they were misfits, this is a team that has always struggled to come up with comps, always struggled to find who's going to be in what role. And this is going to be somewhat controversial and blunt, I would also say always a team that has prioritized personal chemistry over picking up the best available people in the roles that they need. As for Ryder only being an assistant coach, I don't really think the hierarchy is nearly as important as the skill set. If he's able to solve the can't build comps that save your life and role inconsistency issues, I think that he's a great pickup. I would say they still probably need depth and support, especially someone who can play Mercy not terribly, and probably another assistant coach, because even with two people, they're still below average on their coaching staff for the Overwatch League teams. I would say Mayhem should be targeting a 16-win season, so going 5-5 for the rest of the league. I think that they are a better team than Gladiators. I think they're a better team than Shanghai. After that, it's just a matter of picking off other teams while they're vulnerable. Shock will be vulnerable until and possibly even after their players turn 18. I think that Fusion has shown their ability to be tremendously inconsistent. I think that the jury is still out on FOWL. I think that I think they can actually get 16 wins? Maybe I'm being a homer. Do I think that they can get more wins than both Gladiators and Shanghai? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a good way to put it. I don't disagree with you at all there. But Evan, last words here on Florida Mayhem and the signings. What are your thoughts?
Definitely. I'm going to be kind of record player with Pesto on this one. I think this is going to be a huge thing for Florida. I mean, definitely right up in there with Gladiators, Fusion. I mean, dare I say it, even potentially Outlaws level. Maybe not full series, but definitely take some maps from them. I mean, these guys that they're adding on, they have so much history within professional Overwatch. I mean, they're honestly some of the most, I mean, they've just been in so many teams. They've done so many LAN events, so many tournaments. So I think Sai's he's going to be second DPS with Tvic. He's going to replace Logix. Logic's going to have to work hard to get that spot back. Awesome guy. Definitely going to be the dedicated main tank for Florida. And overall, I want to say that these guys are going to do a really good job. With the addition of Ryder, we never really know the internal chemistry when it comes down to it. I mean, that's definitely something to consider. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think it just straight up came to mechanical skill among the players. Not to say one is significantly better than the other or how they work together as a team. But definitely going back to overall, hey, we get along, we're friends, this is good chemistry. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to play well together, actually play Overwatch well together. So yeah, at the end of the day, I think this is going to be a huge, huge change for Florida. I would not be surprised to see them up, above average, definitely, maybe in the top 5.
That is definitely bold, considering where they're at now, but definitely in the realm of possibility, especially since I can personally confirm from Tvic's stream that he's no longer the bus driver. Someone else is now doing that. But that brings us to the end of round 1. A quick recap for those of you on audio only. We've got a pretty close game here. Bob obviously threw away a couple of points with the DeFran comments. He's at 18, followed closely by Evan at 20 points. Then we've got A. Smith at 21 and Pesto just a little bit ahead here with 25. But moving into round 2, it's definitely still anyone's game.
Round 2. Capture the objective.
Now, like I mentioned at the top of the show, this week was a week of trades. It was a week of acquisitions. It is also a week of Contenders Academy teams. and we got a big old dump of team rosters. Technically, most of them are still unconfirmed, but for the sake of discussion here, we're going to assume that they are all confirmed. You can do whatever sleuthing and investigating you'd like for that. But A. Smith, we'll start with you. Assuming that all these ESPN leaks are accurate, which academy team that we've seen so far is the strongest?
Right now, assuming that all of this is correct, which so far we have no reason to say why it's not, because everything that has been said so far has been confirmed. So far, so. But I think you're going to have to go with New York Excel. We'll have to see how their English and Korean and everything works together. But, I mean, Flower and Nene are just amazing players. That's probably the strongest DPS core here, and probably one of the top 5 DPS core in the OWL right now. We'll have to see, but I mean, you're going to have some other big names that are super experienced, which everyone thought would be an OWL, like Adam. Adam is a big one there on that team, and then I'd have to say Clone Man is a big time streamer, which I thought would be should be playing competitive, and I'm really glad to see that he got picked up, because he's an excellent tank. He was one of the main reasons that Seagull's meme team almost made it into contenders. So Clone Man is a really good tank. Now, I'd also like to say, though, that the other team that would rival them is the London team, which unfortunately they're not in the same group, and we won't see them play unless we have that Contenders World event. So who knows? But right now it looks like the New York Excel is just head and shoulders above the other teams, looking for dominance for New York Excel like they did in the first season of OWL.
Definitely agree with you a lot there. I'm pointing to my New York Excelsior hat for those of you who can't see. And of note, before we go on, let's see. We heard New York Excelsior announced, London Spitfire announced, LA Gladiators, Houston Outlaws, San Francisco Shock, I believe. Anyone else I'm missing? I think that was all of them.
We have
Florida?
the rumors for Mayhem and,
and Mayhem
for
too.
Houston.
Yep.
Did Houston formally announce?
I don't think they formally announced, but they definitely were in that leak. But Pesto, we'll move to you. Who are you seeing as the top contenders academy team that's been revealed so far?
So I agree that NYXL is going to be a good team, even though their academy team name is a shirt size and their logo looks like a big and tall casual store chain. However,
I need those, man. I need those.
I'm going to go with Britain, and not just because it's Nuki's team and I'm prone to incredible favoritism.
I know that all too well.
I think that, like New York, they have a very good DPS core. I think Craggy could go in, for example, into to LA Gladiators and put Asher on the bench permanently. He's absolutely insane. And he also brings a Mei that we really haven't seen anyone running. We've seen a little bit of Mei, but not a aggressive building engagements around Mei on Hanamura, which is going to be fun as heck to see, and I hope that Hanamura is in contenders so we can see more of it. They also, I think very importantly, is that they look strong both on dive and on tank, and with this meta where both dive and tank heavy look like they're going to be viable, that's a good skill to have. Whereas I think some of these other strong-looking contenders teams have only shown us dive, and it's possible they're good, but as yet they're unproven on tank heavy. Fusion also deserves an honorable mention. They've been tearing it up in North America in the Tier 2 tournaments, mind you, against not particularly strong opposition. And then lastly, I'm going to throw some fire and say that I am legitimately not sure whether the Los Angeles Gladiators Overwatch team or Contenders team is better.
Man, I hope they stream some scrims, because that will definitely be an interesting one to watch for sure. But Evan, what are your thoughts here on the academy teams that we saw?
Sure, and that's so funny that you said that. I, as much as I want to say it could be the Spitfires team and New York's, there's something about LA's team, Gladiator Legion. I'm a big fan of a lot of these players. I mean, Gods, Rolf, Corey, Pooks. I mean, again, just so much history in professional Overwatch from Luminosity, NRG, C9, the U.S. World Cup team. I mean, these guys, again, they have so much experience playing on a LAN level, a professional top-tier level. Now, of course, you do have NY, you've got Flower, you do have Adam. So my heart does say to go with Gladiator Legion. However, I do have to give it to New York. I think they are just a significant step above when it comes to mechanical skill within the game. We'll see when it comes to communication. We've got a couple. It could be a pretty big hurdle for them to combat. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to just straight up the ability to play the game well, I think New York does. They do have any other team in the entire contenders scene beat.
Well, I agree with you, and it seems that Evan has already figured out how to buy himself some extra points just by picking XL. So good on you for that. But Bob, last word here on the Contenders Academy teams that were announced.
Well, one thing is it sucks to go last. Let's have a question like this. I mean, NYXL, I'm gonna have to say that is definitely the one that I'm gonna pick too. I mean, Flower arguably might be the best DPS in OWL if he was there. But the British Hurricane, or is it Hurricanes? Hurricane? They've got like a lot of the talent from Europe that didn't make it. And they also have a friend of the show, Noki. She's gonna be the glue that holds it all together, the mom, so to speak. But everybody else made most of the points, so I could say the same thing, but that would.
I do know the woes of going last. Well, I mean, I don't know the woes because I'm always first and last and sometimes mixed in the middle. That's why you have to start your own show. But yeah, definitely getting some points for bringing up Nuki as well. I know Pesto did. I gave him points then too. But she was, for those of you who are new to the show, she was a contestant on this very show, not 2, 3, 5, I don't know, 2 episodes ago, I think?
It was 6. It was episode 6.
Yeah, that's true. You see, Pesto knows the show better than I do. Super fan and multi-time contestant. Best place to be in, except for the seat that I'm in. But let's move right along here. So again, going back to trades, we saw London do something a little interesting and a little bit different than the other teams have. London actually are selling away or trading away. We don't know the exact details, I don't think, of what they've been doing, but they've been basically giving away their players, releasing or selling what have you of their players to other Overwatch League competition, like we mentioned before. So Pesto, we'll start with you. After winning stage 1, why would a team be selling their players to other teams they're going to have to compete against?
Well, 12 players is incredibly expensive. You've got 12 rosters. I seriously doubt any of them are on minimum salary. It also means you can't add talent. And rumor is that London is looking to add Architect, who is known as a World Elite Genji and currently Monty's favorite player. He's just turning 18 now, so it's perfect. But also, I think it's important to look at where they're sending the players. They're sending one of the players to Dallas. They're sending the other player to LA Gladiator. Even if both of these moves mean these teams take a big step up, I don't think London is going to be looking over their shoulder and saying, "Oh crap! Now all of a sudden we've got another contender for the end of season playoffs." I think, if London is anticipating they're going to have another 3 8-2 stages, I don't think that they're thinking that either, certainly not Gladiators, probably not FOWL, are also going to be 8-2 or better. So I think that London is probably comfortable with their lead. I don't think they would be giving players to New York. I don't think they'd be giving players to Houston. I don't think they'd be giving players even to Seoul or Valiant. But I think that if you want to free up roster space, if you want to cut some of your salary burden, giving it to Gladiators and even giving it to FOWL, it makes business sense.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. definitely a lot of different moving parts from running an Overwatch League team for sure. But Evan, I want to get your thoughts here. What do you think? Is there anything else to this? What do you think about these moves from the London Spitfire?
Sure. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think from a budgetary standpoint, probably, several $100,000 just to keep a full 12 roster team. So yeah, that was my number one point. I definitely think it is from a budget standpoint a pretty big concern. However, I still think they're going to get back up to full 11, 12 players. Internal scrimming, kind of just from what we've heard over the last couple of weeks, it does sound like it is something that a lot of teams like to do. Especially if it's a matter of running, say, internal strats with how much the meta is changing in the upcoming stage. I don't know. It could be really interesting to see who they do actually bring on. Now, with sending these two players off, I don't see them, slowing down in terms of their success. So going forward, I definitely think they're going to bring on more. However, in the long run, if they're not going to be playing him for the time being, why keep him around?
Right.
Spend that payroll on something else.
Yeah, they should spend it on sending me free merch. That's
free stuff for everybody.
free stuff for everyone. But Bob, what are your thoughts here on London Spitfire transferring the contracts of some of their players?
Money, 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 money. It was probably extremely pricey to buy two full rosters at the start. Also made them completely full. They can't bring anyone else in. I don't know that they're actually going to bring anybody else in, at least not right now, but I could be wrong there. I just think that they wanted to make some money back, and I'm assuming that Dallas took over the contract and gave a hefty sum. So I think it was just a pure business decision, and it's also possible Rascal wasn't happy. So I think that it was just all money.
For sure. But A. Smith, any other opinions here on the London Spitfire?
Yeah, why keep what you don't need? They don't need them. They weren't planning on using them, obviously. Fisher hasn't played in like the last 4 games, maybe even more than that. Fisher hasn't been playing. They don't need him. You can go with somebody else. There are a lot of different free agents still in the market that are available, that are good players, that might fit their roster better. You're going to get money out of the trade. That's awesome. Rascal hasn't been playing. He played a whopping 3 maps in the last 3-4 weeks of Overwatch League, so they weren't using him. Trade him somewhere. Doesn't matter where you trade him. I don't care if you trade him to New York, even though they might be a team better than you, because you've got to think that team already knows that they have the best lineup possible. They're consistent, so he would probably ride the bench on that team too, because you'd have to trade him to a struggling team. That's only makes sense. So you're going to trade away what you don't need, get money from it. Then that frees them up to pick up players that they think might fit their roster better. Like Pesto said, Architect would be a great fit for that team to replace what Rascal brought. Would be a younger talent and could bring some specialness to that team, although they already do have Prophet and Birdring, and I don't foresee anybody taking those 2 roles over. But the main tank option's still definitely open there. You bring in somebody like a specialist with Reinhardt, who may end up doing a lot better than Gesture on Reinhardt or Orisa. That's a very good viability there. It could have been very easily that those players were unhappy. We don't have as much reporting in Overwatch as we would like, as in, say, like the NFL, where anytime any player is disgruntled even a little bit. Unfortunately, we don't have as much journalism quite yet in Overwatch, and so we don't know those things, but it's very likely that that's a possible case and that they asked to be traded.
Yeah, it is interesting to think that when London Spitfire put out that tweet or that poll where one of the options was play Rascal, you cowards, was put out and maybe intended for another team to play him instead. But maybe the long con. Think about it. Think about it. But let's move on here. So we got note that the schedule for Overwatch League is going to be changing. Notably, all the games during the week are going to be played at 7 p.m., 7 Eastern or 4 PST. All the first games are going to be played at that time, which to me on the East Coast of the U.S. and to many others was like, oh, okay, sure, I guess we'll just only see the late games. But to our friends in Europe and other parts of the country, they are not happy about this at all. So Evan, I want to get your thoughts here. Is this schedule change good for Overwatch League? Who does this benefit at all?
Sure, and it's funny. I saw this post and it kind of made me think about it. Because at first I was like, this kind of sucks. I mean, Overwatch has fans global. It's a global game. It's a global league. But the post said Blizzard can't change time zones. I mean, they are Pacific time. Right. They're a U.S. based company. I mean, they built an entire arena for the sake of Overwatch League. So yeah, it is unfortunate that it happens to fall during potentially the worst time for EU, but I would say it's safe to say and assume that a mass majority of the viewership does come out of the United States. If time zones weren't a factor, I still think we would see the most viewership right here. So sorry, Europeans.
Yeah, but what about the 10 million Chinese viewers, man?
Well, yeah, of course. You know what? It's again. I'm sure if Blizzard saw the stat weight, or at least if we had more of a public eye to that type of viewership, comparatively, I just knowing how Blizzard is, if it was that big of concern, I'm sure that they would find a way to compensate somehow.
Yeah. I was saying that 10 million Chinese viewers only slightly tongue-in-cheek. But Bob, what are your thoughts here? Who does this benefit? I mean, we know it screws over EU, but is this good for the league overall?
Well, for right now, it is good for the league. It's great for me because I'm actually going to get to see them all now. But the fact of the matter is, like Evan pointed out, is that the arena is in LA. They need to have fans there to cheer, and they tried changing it. They tried different times during stage 1. They probably got data on attendance for that. If there's no one in the stands, the games are not near as exciting than if it's a packed house. So that's the biggest reason. And Europe will get their matches. I am guessing that there's going to be 4 regions when we hit season 2, and there'll be 4 different arenas that everybody plays at that time zone's time. So I think you're going to get what you want, but in this first season, guys, I'm sorry, but you got to go where the money and the attendance is, and that is at United States time zones, and that's just the way it is to start.
True. Sorry, Icarium. Sorry, Croak. I know we're going to hear about this in Discord later. For sure. I know they were the ones that inspired this question. But A. Smith, I want to get your thoughts here. Is this really a benefit for the Overwatch League in general?
Yes. You have to put butts in seats. I mean, that's obvious. Not only is it because of building excitement, but it's also for money's sake. People are paying those tickets. You need money to, fix the concessions. People don't realize how much money is actually made in concessions. Probably more than is made actually in the seats themselves. There's a lot of money in concessions. Trust me. I have to work concessions once or twice. But it's a very valid thing. But also, people forget to realize that this is better for Asian time zones because it's on those Eastern time zones or Pacific time zones. It's better for the Asian time zones in general. Because of that, from what I've gathered, it seems like there's more Asian fan base than there is of European fans watching, if you're including Korea, China, and Australian area. There's a lot more viewership there. Therefore, you're kind of boosting your viewership in a way. and that just makes more sense numbers wise. I hate it for the European fans, but it is what it is. It's season one, you know, not everybody can be happy right away. You know, people got to invest more. Get your European investors to maybe invest in some teams, and then you can be a little more happy with the viewership there. It's not our fault. It's not Blizzard's fault. It's the European investors' fault that there aren't more European teams right now, because I guarantee you, if more European teams had bought in, this might not even be in Los Angeles if, you know, you had 12 European teams buy in instead of mostly, you know, NA teams. They might not have even had it here. So that's not really on Blizzard. You can't blame them.
And we still can blame Blizzard, but maybe for other things.
You can, but you're wrong.
Can I jump in with one thing though?
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Since A Smith is in the lead, I have to call you out. The concessions at the Blizzard arena are like chips and soda. Like it's bad. They don't have a liquor license. Like, it'll be good at some point, but right now,
you know how much money
really
you
bad.
make on soda alone? It's astounding, because that stuff is like 5 cents a cup, and they're probably selling it for what, $2, $3? Everybody that gets a drink, which is
one person with any concessions the whole time.
I'm just saying, over the span of a long time,
But
it's
you are,
a lot of money.
Once they actually have something that's good, yeah, for sure. And once they get alcohol,
more importantly, once they get that delicious Taco Bell sponsorship
G-Fuel.
for the league, and G Fuel. Oh my God, if they come out with Baja Blast flavored G Fuel, I will probably die on the spot. But Pesto, last words here on the shift in the schedule for Overwatch League at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, as everyone said, Europe's always going to have a hard time watching Overwatch League because, well, let's face it, they're in the wrong part of the planet for a league that's based solely in LA. I think it'll get better when the league starts traveling. I have a competing theory to Bob's about the league. I think that what we're going to see in Season 2 is that there's going to be an Atlantic City and a Pacific City each week. So, like, there'll be a bunch of games in Miami and in San Francisco in Week 1, and then in Dallas and Houston in Week 2, that kind of thing. Because just from the logistics of staff and how many people you'll need, I think Season 2 you're going to have just moving cities. But either way, I think one thing that hasn't been mentioned before, I think that one way that's good is just because you're starting at the same time every week. I think that for us that live and breathe Overwatch, okay, it's a different time on Thursday than it is on Wednesday, not an issue. But for trying to attract casual fans, oh wow, I thought it was going to start at 7, and now it's been on for 2 hours. What the heck? So I think starting on a consistent day, very good. Also moving the playoffs Sunday. I mean, we all knew it had to happen. I'm glad Blizzard identified it as his issue and changed immediately. Should they have fixed it beforehand? Yes, they should have seen it coming. But I mean, I'm glad that they're making adjustments.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to see that they are ready, willing, and able to actually move the format and change things around for Overwatch League. But unfortunately, Europe is kind of getting screwed over. In this one. But again, I know we're going to hear this from Icarium, and probably just him, and it'll be loud enough for everyone from him in Discord.
But if you listen to the pros, Europe's been getting screwed over since like the land stopped in 2016.
Yeah, I can't. Even if there was
the latest in a long line of indignity.
Don't give him any more fuel, man.
Knock
it off, man. But moving on to oh god, we're never gonna hear the end of this. Moving on to the last question in round 2, we've got a lot of regions of contenders playing for this contenders season, 7 to be exact. Formerly there was 2, and now all 7 regions are going to be playing their games at the same time. Is this a problem, A. Smith, that the contenders regional playoffs overlap?
Kind of, but not really. I say that it's a good problem to have. There's so much Overwatch that we can't all watch it all, which means, yeah, you may not get your, 5 minutes of fame or whatever, but I'm sorry, there's just so much Overwatch and you're already in the second tier right now. You're not going to have the bulk of people watching you. You know why they have contenders right now? So scouts can watch. So Overwatch League play, scouts can get there, see who's doing really well. You get a lot of data and stats and things like that. And then you can get moved up to Overwatch League. Then you can get your fame. I'm sorry, but it's just not, it's not doable. There's only so many days in the week, so many hours in the week that we can stream and people are going to watch. And, you get 500 viewers on your stream, then, that's awesome. You get 500 people watching you. But if you get 0, then you get 0. And that it is what it is too. Like, you can't complain about it. People can only watch so much Overwatch.
Good point. Pesto, I know this one was a topic that was near and dear to you. So what are your thoughts here on the Contenders playoffs?
I disagree completely. I think this is actually really bad. And I think this is really bad because if you drill down the viewership so small, if you're really getting 500 people in some of these regions, it's going to be very hard to get endemic orgs in. And because most of these endemic orgs, their business model is you're selling sponsorships, and the attraction to sponsors is people are seeing your brand and people are seeing you be successful. And if no one is seeing you, you can't use Contenders as part of your business model, and that means that you're not going to be picking up a Contenders. Now, for North America, that's fine because there's so many academy teams that chances are everyone in Contenders is going to be getting a paycheck. But if you're in Europe, if you're in any of the smaller regions, except possibly Korea and maybe China, this is really bad because for Overwatch to be sustainable in the long term, being in Contenders for a few years has to be viable. You can't be eating ramen and living in a basement when you're 17, 18, 19. There needs to be, it doesn't have to be the big bucks. I'm not saying $50,000 a year, but it needs to be livable to be in Contenders so that you can say, okay, this is something I can do. I can put my life on hold and risk it for a few years. So the viewership itself is not the problem. Having all the games at the same time, having the playoffs overlapping, that's not the problem. The problem is that leads to endemic orgs not wanting to get in, and therefore fewer paychecks, and therefore a smaller pool of people that can get away with being in Contenders for a few years, if that's what.
Really good point. I mean, Blizzard lays it out as a path to pro, and if it's not actually a path to pro, the whole system seems to kind of devolve from there. But Evan, what are your thoughts here on the Contenders playoff system? How do you think this is going to affect everything in the Overwatch League ecosystem?
Sure. I'm kind of 50-50. I definitely agree with what Pesto's saying. Actually, it's a great way of looking at it. If the viewership's not there, if the funding's not there, and if this truly is supposed to be a path to pro, that can be, a huge detriment to these guys really getting to the next level, which is, the big time, the Overwatch League. Now on the flip side, this is the marketing background coming out. So it's in my opinion, it's two somewhat different types of viewers. So you have your seasoned Overwatch player, not a pro player, but just a casual viewer. The league's been out for a full stage now. People are familiar with it. They're comfortable with it. They know when to watch it. They know the teams. They have their favorite players. They have their XQC jerseys, whatever it may be. I don't think Contenders is going to take from that. But the other way around, I definitely do think more of the seasoned Overwatch fans or viewers or players are going to be attracted to these Contenders matches because it's much more of a hardcore following type of, I don't want to say consumer, but viewer, like I said, the guy who watches XQC every single night when he streams, he watches the FOWL and he loves the FOWL. However, you might have somebody who has absolutely no idea who, I don't know, Corey is or Gods is, but the guy who has been following Overwatch esports from day one would really want to see these guys compete and play. So, like I said, I'm 50-50. Overall, I have to say it can't hurt in terms of the overall growth of these younger players wanting to get noticed and take it to the next level. And I do definitely agree. If that lack of viewership isn't there, or the lack of support from outside organizations isn't there, how are these guys going to get to the next step, which is ultimately the Overwatch League?
Man, I was not expecting this many like really good points to come out of here, but definitely really good, definitely a lot of good points coming out. But Bob, last word here on these contenders playoffs overlapping. What are you thinking about here with the Overwatch League and everything going on around it?
Well, I will say that my opinion is different from everybody else's, but Pesto made a really good point, so he actually swayed me a little bit, but I still agree that this is the way it should be, and I think it's a test for the Overwatch League as a whole. I think the games should be played at the same time. I don't think that having all the games played at different times throughout the week is really the future of it. I mean, the NFL plays the majority of their games in one day, so and that's 32 teams. So I don't think it's I don't think it's going to take anything away from the actual viewership, because most people, we watch all of the games, but most people don't. They watch their teams. So I don't think if you split it off into like 2, 3, I think Contenders is just basically testing out what it would be for the Overwatch League, and I think that's the way it's going to go for everything. And just because it wasn't done that way in the past doesn't mean it's not a better way.
Yeah.
I have a counterpoint to Pesto.
Go ahead.
Nobody brought it up. Okay. What happens when they add in like 6, 7 more European teams into Overwatch League? Then they get academy teams. Therefore, the need for all of these additional endemic orgs comes in. What happens then? There's no need really, because the point is the Overwatch League is going to grow. Therefore, more academy teams. Therefore, those endemic orgs are already going to be invested into, say, bigger things like Overwatch League, and they'll have an academy team. The kids will already get paid by then.
Yeah.
I would say in my answer to you, I don't think that we're going to get 4 or 5 European teams before maybe season 4. I think you might pick up 1 or 2 every year. That's still leaving a lot of people without getting paychecks, and you can't have a sustainable group. You can't have a sustainable region if there aren't enough sustainable teams.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an extremely complex situation. I think it's going to end up boiling down to who is going to bear not the burden, but who's going to bear the weight of the contenders people. Is it going to be the orgs? Is it going to be Blizzard? Is it going to be I don't know. That is definitely going to be interesting to see how it pans out, because even though it's not as big, obviously, as the Overwatch League, it very well could be just as important for the longevity of the league. But that is definitely one that we're going to be touching in on throughout the course of Around the Payload as this evolves. But we won't go too much further into it now, as we do need to move on. And that does bring us to the end of round 2. We saw the scores kind of whittle it a little bit closer. We didn't see anyone drive away with it, but right now we've got Evan in with 51 points, Bob just barely ahead with 52 points, A. Smith with 54, and Pesto still maintaining the lead with 55, but this is going to be a heated round 3.
The payload is approaching its destination.
And round 3, of course, is the buy or sell format, which means I'm going to give you a topic and you have to buy, agree, or sell, disagree. Make sure you do say buy or sell, or I will definitely take off points. But we will start with you, Bob. I want to talk here about the stage playoff format. I've heard opinions that it's great, it was amazing, it was fun to watch, it made it interesting. I've also heard the opinion that it is basically a glorified exhibition match. It doesn't count towards the season. The scheduling was kind of messed up with it. So, Bob, I'll put it to you this way. Buy or sell the stage playoff format as it is right now?
As it is right now, sell. as they've changed it though to where the two games are going to be played on Sunday. Now I will buy that. I was there for the stage 1 playoffs, and by the time that we got to the last two playoff matches, the energy was gone from most of the people when at the last game when NYXL was up two games, everybody in the media room, I'm not gonna call names, but everybody there were like just praying that NYXL would just win so they could go home, because they still had to do the press conferences and everything. The players were dead tired. The fans were pretty lackluster at that point, and it's supposed to be, even though it's basically not a game that counts for the full season, it is a game that counts for a lot of money, and the hype should be real. And so them having it on the same day was really bad, but they're changing that next. Now, as far as it just being an exhibition game, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I don't know how to actually incorporate it into the standings, but there should be some sort of boost for if you win that. I just don't know how you put that in, but there should be something. Like, it shouldn't just be an exhibition match for money.
Well, I mean, I think the boost might be the $100,000 that the team gets to walk away with.
They made it out to be like this was actually going to matter at the end of each stage, but it doesn't. I mean, Spitfire won, but they're still number 3. So over the team that they beat, both under both teams that they beat in the exhibition rounds.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting in that aspect. But A-Smith, buy or sell here the stage playoff format as an entity?
As an entity, as a whole, I buy it as it is right now, or as it is. I guess we can say as it is right now, because technically he's already made the changes have been made. So it does matter, and I know people get this feeling, oh, it's an exhibition, it doesn't count. It does matter. It matters for the players' paychecks. Therefore, they're going to work really hard on it. It also matters in other aspects, like momentum. Momentum is a big thing. The players get the feel of, oh, I just beat so-and-so, I can still beat them. Yeah, sure, they may be in third place, but they're in third place by 1 game. It's not like it's that big of a difference. It's still really close. And this matters for the fans, because the fans get to see the best teams play. And that's what fans really want. We don't care to see Shanghai play, New York, and New York to just pummel them. That's not a fun game for the fans to watch. The fun game for the fans to watch. Okay, whatever. The fun game for the fans to watch is the big games, the top 2 teams playing each other, and everybody wins. Players get money. Players want to play hard. Fans get to see the best teams play. Who cares if it's in the standings or not?
True. Good point. But Pesto, what are your thoughts here? Buy or sell the contender, or not the contender, stage playoffs format?
Buy. Realistically, I think we're going to see a balance patch every season. We already sort of getting hints for what between every stage, we already are getting hints at what might change with stage 3, which I know is coming up as a question. So this is sort of like a very nice end cap. It's a mini tournament for that patch. It didn't happen this time, but let's say there was a team that was really, really good on this patch. They could still win some money, get some accolades on this patch, and if they have a decent middling rest of the season, hey, they still won something, and that's still important for building your fan base. That's still important for building the hype. I think the silliest thing that I've heard, and I want to call it out without naming names, of course, Reddit, they're all worse anyways. But one thing that I heard that was sort of bizarre was people saying, well, it doesn't matter what your standing in the real league is. You don't get anything for coming in first in that stage. And to that I say, well, you get at least $25,000 because you're locked into being in the finals. So yeah,
Right.
that still matters. So even if these individual games don't matter, even if you're not going to go up to 11-0 when everyone else can go up to 10-0, you're still, if you win that season, you're getting either $100,000 or $25,000. And if everyone's going to say $25,000 doesn't matter, I will gladly take that $25,000 off.
Breach.
Yeah. People
Yeah, but
start
it's split between everybody, though.
You know,
It
I
gets a
will
lot
still
smaller
take.
when you
I'll
think
still
about it
take
like that.
my
Money's
small
money, dude.
share.
$4,000. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take my my ant share of that $25K any day. But Evan, last words here: buy or sell on the stage finals
Sure.
format.
I'm gonna buy on this one. I mean, at first, to be honest, I really wasn't too thrilled with how it was set up. I just thought it was a little bit too complicated, especially from, if you look in the wide scale, like the casual viewer, the person that only tunes in on, say, one or two games a week. It just didn't make any sense, But on the flip side, and it did grow on me quite a bit. I think Blizzard really did a good job of trying their best to explain it as thoroughly as possible. They literally had that 30-second kind of cool, really well done breakdown that they played. They even had it on the pre-show. I think that's really important. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I do think it pretty accurately is going to give us the best teams. Rather than just, like, say, a traditional round robin or best of 3, whatever it may be. I think the map score, team A has to only win 1 map versus team B has to win 2 maps, while team C only wins, say, 3 throughout the entire week. This format, I think, is really, really cool. Now, in terms of all the games on one day, holy hell, that was a long day. I fortunately didn't have to do anything for work, so I actually spent, I think, 11 hours watching every single game all day. And yeah, it was like a marathon. I didn't do anything. I ordered pizza. I didn't leave, but I was tired at the end. So I can only imagine, the players, the people actually there, trying to stay, hyped and pumped for all the matches the entire time. I'm very glad that they are going to be changing that going forward. I think that's going to be a huge thing for all the players, everybody involved, and also the viewership. People are going to be excited for that final.
Yeah. The only thing, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, Evan gave me an idea that I hadn't thought of before, which is that it makes your random week 5 game map. If the difference between stages is only, okay, week 6 there's going to be a new patch and some new maps, you can't build as much narrative and bring as much viewers as this match between Houston and Boston decides who has a chance for $100,000. And it's in week 5, and you've got 3 more week 5s up and coming. So I think it's a great way to structure the league so it doesn't have a lull in the middle.
The map score, though, is a little weird. Like it reminds me of college football as opposed to the NFL, because the NFL would be a lot different if it was by points, so it is a little weird for me, but I think it's probably the best for the current format.
Yeah,
they have to do something to convince us that the 4th map matters in a 3-0.
You don't need 4th map to matter. You want bench players to play, don't you? There needs to be garbage time so bench players are actually getting playing time. Just saying.
Great point.
That's true. I mean,
Free Mendo.
Free
Mendo.
True. The
one thing, Rascal, you cowards.
Play Rascal, you Dallas Fuel cowards. Which, man, I didn't think that was going to reference that twice. But I can't believe, the one thing that for me I think is going to be the biggest thing, and I can't believe no one brought up, is it's going to be really awkward to explain to people who are coming in either late or very casual fans into stage 2 to be like, okay, so here's what happened. Shanghai Dragons, they are they're 7-12 right now. However, they're first in stage 2. They're at the bottom. They're in the bottom half of the standings on the Overwatch League website. Okay, but stay with me here. They're playing for the stage 2 playoffs, which even though they're at the bottom of the standings, they're still playing for it. So it's you've got this 2 separate tournaments going on inside the same tournament, which we all get it. Obviously, we follow everything. Like we get it entirely, but it's just going to be like, I'm just dreading having to explain to like new Discord viewers and to new viewers in general, like, okay, these are the two separate tournaments that are happening, not even simultaneously, in literally the same exact league in same exact season. So
actually, let's just stop assuming that all incoming new viewers are idiots, because it's not that hard to understand. They have a video.
It's not that hard. But
there's a video for it. Stop assuming everybody to be idiots. Everybody that's coming in are not dumb.
Fans, A. Smith, you're an expert, so you might have forgotten what it was like.
Yeah, no.
Not even necessarily Discord.
It's not that
viewers.
hard. There are two different like.
It's definitely not that hard.
One video that's
I think you're giving people too much credit.
I think it's easy to fix. It's easy to fix though. You have this graphic, and this graphic is going to show you the standings. You put an extra column in next to it, so you have a overall league column.
I'm too dumb for this
season.
There's one.
Yes.
I'm just thinking if I wasn't.
One thing that Blizzard is really good at, it's designing infographics. So let them have their opportunity to design infographics.
This is what I'll leave it. This is what I'll leave it with. It took them like 3 years for them to add extra deck slots in Hearthstone because it was too complicated for new players. That's all I'm gonna say about that, and we will move on. So we obviously have the new map pool for stage 2. It's got Volskaya, Hanamura, Nepal, Lijiang Tower, Kings Row, Route 66, Hollywood, and Watchpoint Gibraltar. So, A. Smith, I want to get your thoughts here. Buy or sell the new map pool for stage 2?
All right. I'm going to buy it. Easy. I mean, anything different than what we've been watching for the last entirety of the first stage is definitely going to be a hard buy. I mean, if you sell this, you're dumb.
Yeah, but don't you want more Junkertown, man? Come on.
I mean, like, come on. Everybody's been begging for map diversity. So, hey, we're getting all new maps. Of course you're going to buy that. Let's watch new maps. Hey, these are better maps. These are going to be less cheese strats, minus maybe Hanamura, because I freaking love the May strat for Hanamura. Please run it.
Gardens.
Right. So anyways, it's going to be a lot of fun. These are classic maps that bring people back. You're going to get a lot of nostalgia from old watchers, and you're going to get a lot of, hey, this is how you play this map from new people. So it's great.
For sure. Pesto, buy or sell on the new map pool?
Well, I can't sell after that, can I? No, absolutely buy. I think that the two things that make this the most exciting for me are, first, you have a good mix of maps that favor tanks and maps that tanks aren't necessarily great on. I think that you're going to see 3-4 tanks run on Hanamura and Kings Row and not on some of these other maps. So you're going to get to see a meta that really hasn't had an opportunity in stage 1. And then second, I mean, Kings Row is the iconic map of Overwatch. You've been watching before the Overwatch League. This is the one that everyone picked when they were able to still pick a ban map. And if it's not that, it's Gibraltar. I forget which caster it was, but there was some cast that was like, and next we're going to Gibby. And that's always stuck with me. People get excited.
It sounds like ZP, but I don't know.
It might be. I don't remember.
And considering if it was a tournament casted before Overwatch League, there's just a 90% chance that ZP was in or casting or observing or doing something for that tournament.
And he might be the biggest reason why people watch Contenders. If he winds up casting Contenders. But yeah, it's a good map pool. It's an iconic map pool. It's a map pool. I mean, I think Blizzard did a good job with some of the maps in this stage. In stage 1 had different strategies. You forced different strategies. I think this is an even better map pool coming into stage 2, and I'm right there with you. I want to see May.
More May for sure will be good. But Evan, buy or sell this new map pool?
Yeah, I mean, buy 250%. I am so ready for a change of scenery. Kings Row, I mean, it's my favorite map to date. I love it. Between the sight lines from Widow on point A or even Hanzo point A, different tank strats that are going to be coming out. I think we're going to see a lot of new things that we haven't seen yet in the league, which is incredibly exciting. I agree with Pesto. I think we're going to see a lot of tank play on some of the more choke-oriented maps. Ultimately, though, yeah, I just want to see a ton of environmental kills and boops on Nepal saying lots of new sight lines. I never want to see Lunar Colony ever again in my life.
So true. So true.
Overall, yeah, I completely buy it. It's going to really give a better story, better narrative for viewers as well. Because yeah, it is. I would say this map pool is among most people's favorite selection of maps, and it is the OG map kind of map cycle. So yeah, I think the viewers and players are really going to enjoy it. It's going to be a nice fresh breath there for everybody.
For sure. But Bob, last words here, buy or sell on the new map pool?
I'm going to buy it with like two exceptions. First off, it looks like a actual map pool that we would have gotten from a ban. I mean, it's definitely old school. Now, the things I want to sell is, why is Blizz World not part of it? Why? I want to know how to play that map, and how better to know than watching the pros play it. I don't understand why they wouldn't put the new map in. That just, it seems like a missed opportunity to me. And then, is Lijiang going to be the tiebreaker once again?
No,
I don't think so. I think it's in the regular pool, at least based on the website. I don't know.
Okay, I hope so, because like if they're just gonna keep that up, then like just always practice that one, because if that's the one you're always gonna tie break on, then you have a really good chance if you just are the best at it. So hope so. Then that would make it Nepal. Then would be the tiebreaker,
or Oasis.
Or
I'm hoping.
I think
I'm hoping for Oasis because I love Farah.
I didn't see Oasis in there.
I don't think they've announced it.
Oh, they don't
the
put the
website.
tiebreaker map in. Okay.
They don't put it
New
on
map.
there, so I don't know what it is.
I will.
Nanobu said it's Ilios.
Ooh, I hope it's
Is it
Ilios,
Ilios?
because then we get to see more of the big boss
Hoops
come
for the
out.
hoop god.
Yep, fine. That's unfair. But I do think as a Dallas Fuel fan, pretty excited about this map pool.
Yeah,
it's a good one for Fuel. I will say, and this is like second hand or third hand or maybe fourth hand. The reason why we're not seeing Blizzard World now is because the pros want to have more opportunity to train on it before they're playing it in front of an audience. And when you're practicing for
throw 'em
OWL,
to the wolves.
when you're practicing for OWL, you're not practicing the PPR, you're not practicing the maps you're not playing. So I think, and it's going to be better games if you're just discovering brand new strats that you've never seen before, versus whether you've had you have a couple months to practice this. I think you're going to get better matches.
True, and I mean, it's not necessarily beneficial for Overwatch League to have like a super lopsided 2 weeks of like, oh, we're supposed to play this on Blizzard World. Oops, we just lose.
I don't think they got all the bugs out of Blizzard World either. I mean,
Yeah,
I think you're still going to have a lot of Reaper shadow stepping in places he's not intended and things like that.
Well, then I would know how to do it.
Yeah, there's definitely some logistical stuff for Blizzard World, but I was really hoping someone would bring up the fact that Deathblow played against Jeff Kaplan on Kings Row 1v1 during closed alpha, but that is a very obscure and old reference that I don't know if anyone even knows anymore. But
did you know that Deathblow played against Jeff Kaplan?
Oh man,
dude. Pandering.
Blatant pandering is definitely losing you points at a time when you definitely don't want to be losing points. But let's move on. So this week, of course, lots of stories. A lot of them not necessarily. They're not officially reported story, or they're not officially reported by the teams and the org stories. So there's been some debate among different people of like, are these not leaks but unconfirmed stories of roster changes and whatnot? Are they good for the community? Are they bad? Do they cause like the whole, and I'll take points away from myself, the whole Defran thing, that's not confirmed, obviously, people saying that, and then the stories that were reported and aren't confirmed yet, I don't know. But I want to get your thoughts here, starting with you, Pesto. Do you buy or sell these unconfirmed stories being reported?
Hard buy. Journalism is not an exercise in towing the company line. Journalism will not function if you're just waiting for an organization that has no incentive to answer you, to give you an official confirmation of what you heard. I think, yes, it's true that we have seen in Overwatch as well as out of Overwatch, journalists rush to get a story out the door, miss important details, report something is finalized while it's still being worked on. I think that aside from making everyone involved look really awful, Hastro and Slasher and the associated people on Twitter that want to get noticed by pitching in, even when they're not directly involved, I think everyone looked bad out of that. But you can't just say, don't report unconfirmed stories, because for every botched story, there's another story of some org doing something incredibly shitty to their players. And because an investigative journalist talked to the players and was able to get those stories out there, things change for the better. So absolutely, journalists need to have the freedom to report what the information that they have. And occasionally they're going to get some things wrong. Mm-hmm. Occasionally the facts are going to change between when they hear them and when they go to press. But that's sort of the cost of doing business. And the better the journalists are, the more respected they are in the community, the less that's going to happen. You've got to do it. You've got to let the journalists say what they know.
Good. A lot of good points there. Evan, what are your thoughts here on reporting the unconfirmed stories?
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a hard buy for me too. I would say within the Overwatch space, I mean, it's been fairly spot on for the most part. And I mean, we all have to admit it's fun. I mean, if it's anything from like, say somebody's reporting new player signing or a trade or some sort of implication because XQC said something stupid on stream, it's fun. People will dig that. And, what the saying is, all press is good press. I agree to an extent, but for the most part, I agree. Now, when it comes to some of the things that, say, like some of these ESPN reporters have said, or even like Slasher, specifically like around like Guguri, for example, there was something that came out that it was quoted by her that she didn't really have much of an interest in the league, that was not going to happen. That was not something that she wanted to do. But also it could have been, some 600 IQ strats of her trying to like, shake the tail and
she's
actually
on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So she wanted to, build back that hype and really have it be announced through Shanghai or through whatever org she was going to announce it through at the time. So in all, it's a hard buy. I think anything to get the discussion involved more on social or wherever around the league, around Overwatch, around esports in general, it is imperative. It is absolutely important. It needs to happen. The more, the better.
Definitely agree with you on a lot of stuff there. But Bob, what are your thoughts here? Buy or sell these unconfirmed stories?
I'm going to have to go with buy, with the caveat that it's the journalist in question still needs to have integrity. There's a big difference between reporting a rumor and reporting as it were a fact. Also, Evan brought up like misquoting, like just like saying something that someone didn't say, or you don't have proof that they said it, then that's defamation of character. That's not cool. But reporting on rumors as rumors, now that's just fun. I mean, I have loved it. Like I'm not going to say the name, so stopping myself. But yeah, I've just.
I know what you meant. I won't take away points though.
But you said I could say Mick Fran, so the whole speculation around that.
You're walking a real thin line here.
I speculated it on your post back in like the first few days of January, and then it just became a big thing later. I just got lucky, I guess. But I think it's a good time, and I think there's no press that is bad press. Everything brings you in the light, whether it's good or bad, and XQC has shown us that.
That's interesting. That's an interesting point.
XQC has turned being controversial and on camera into 100,000
into 10K followers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Daily.
True. But A. Smith here, last words here, buying or selling the unconfirmed stories?
Look here, if I bought this anymore, my wife might divorce me because we've gone into so much debt. I'm just saying. Look here, you have to buy journalism. Regardless of whether it's good or bad, regardless of whether they're going to have have their sources or whatever, regardless of whether they're unconfirmed or confirmed, you have to have stories. The world thrives on stories. That's what people do. We scroll through Facebook, we scroll through whatever app we have, Reddit, whatever, everything. That's what we do for like 70% of our time, really. Like, I know most people say they're working, but really they're on their phone, scrolling through Reddit. It just happens. That's what people do. We need things to talk about. If we're not talking about it, we're going to start talking about other games and other things. Therefore, we're going to lose interest and you're going to lose viewership. You need more stories, more stuff. And here's the thing, regardless of whether they're right or wrong, the people that are wrong all the time, they're going to find themselves, nobody's going to believe them. If Slasher was wrong about everything here, I guarantee you the next story, people will be like, but it's Slasher. Nobody really thinks it's going to be true because he just bombed everything that he said there. Journalists will gain or lose integrity based on whether they're right or not. And therefore, if they're right all the time, they're going to get a lot more reads on their stories. Like Wolf right now, when he dropped something, it's a Wolf bomb because it's true. And that's what happens with journalism. Their sources don't matter because most times you're not going to be able to know who their sources are, because if they leaked that, they're going to get fired, and you don't want that.
Right. No one's going to.
You want more stories.
Right. No one. The little birdies stop telling you stories when you chirp out who the birdies are.
Snitches get stitches, yo.
Yeah, I'm giving you a point for snitches get stitches for sure. But definitely, I mean, it's definitely the one thing that irked me a little bit, and I guess I've kind of gotten over it, is like when it's reported as a fact when it's just a rumor, which is what Bob kind of brought up. But I guess it's really more of a minutia type of thing. So I'm slowly gotten over it, but good discussion there. Moving on, want to talk about these last ones a little bit quicker because, one of them's a meme question and the other one could go very long, but I want to keep it a little bit shorter. But so we've got the upcoming PTR test changes that are happening with Sombra, May, Doomfist. Jeff Kaplan talks about them in the developer update, so definitely go check that out if you're not 100% sure of them. But there's definitely some big changes to Sombra and May for sure. Doomfist maybe a little bit less so. But Evan, I want to get your thoughts here. Buy or sell the changes overall for May, Doomfist, and Sombra?
Overall, I'm going to buy. The good out of Sombra and Doomfist, who are both significantly underplayed. Now, not to say that May is played even more, but I don't like May that much, to be honest. I do think she has a time and place within the game, and honestly, she's an incredibly high skill cap hero. The ability to play May well, I mean, it's pretty few and far between. But I think Sombra is finally considered an offensive DPS hero, not a kind of off support weird mix. And I think Doomfist, I've played him quite a bit now with some of the changes. It definitely does seem better. I mean, he's how he should be. He feels fun. So overall, yeah, I'm gonna buy. Regardless of May, yeah, I'm gonna buy it.
Bob, thoughts here? Buy or sell on these new changes?
I'm gonna go sell. Everybody calls these fun characters. What I call them is characters. They are just the most frustrating things to play against. And yeah, it's fun when you're playing them and you're like, hey, I'm gonna slowly take a headshot. But no, it's not fun. I don't like it. I don't like anybody who can go invisible in a first-person shooter to get any stronger than they were before. I do like the change they did with Sombra with the hacking, but I say sell. I don't want to see more of them. I want to see them as niche, and I definitely don't want to see them in comp.
Yeah, I mean, Doomfist is a very frustrating character to play against when you just get punched right in the face and die. But A. Smith, what are your thoughts here? Buy or sell these new changes?
Oh, hard buy. I know a lot of people were complaining. They're like, these characters weren't broken. They weren't breaking the game. They weren't OP. Why are we changing everything? Because they sucked. They weren't fun to play with or against. None of these characters felt that good, and there was a reason. Sombra was an EMP bot, and that's not fun to play with. It's a weird strategy that doesn't actually reward engaging, and therefore not fun for any of the fans. May was obviously underused. I don't like necessarily the exact changes they had, but I like that they're working with May to make her better. Doomfist obviously was a massive change to make him more consistent, less sporadic. You're going to get less weirdness going on with Doomfist, more fun.
Yeah, definitely want as much fun Doomfist as I can stomach. But last words here, Pesto, buy or sell these new changes?
Buy May, sell Sombra, neutral on Doomfist, and Hanzo, since he's still in development, yet to see. For May, I think seeing May more in high-level play is going to be great. I think that a lot of the great things in season, was it 2 or season 3, with the meta team putting up these walls and doing all these interesting strategies. I think people forget how fun it can be to see this clutch May wall separate a team and win an otherwise unwinnable team fight. Yes, being frozen sucks, so get better at positioning and don't be in endothermic blaster range. If she's spraying you, you're doing something wrong. But she enables a lot of really fun plays. I'm going to sell Sombra because I don't think we need more DPS heroes. I think that I would have gone much more heavily in the support and make her not as much. Yes, we can cool down the EMP, but build more around the hacking, build more around the health packs, maybe give her an ability to overpower ally shields by hacking them. But something to make her more in the support direction, because I don't think that she adds much by being an assassin. I've yet to see the pros play it, but you already have Tracer as a get in, a kill people and get out hero. And at the top level, you already have other ways of getting that health information. So I don't think she adds much direction. And Doomfist is very situational. I would want to see more about how it actually pans out to make it.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how Doomfist plays out, because Doomfist was one of the most popular characters picked in the Chinese scene, and with some potential new Chinese players coming in for the Dragons and a potential Doomfist player, maybe we'll see some more, at least from the Dragons, but who knows. But
I mean, it's so map dependent. You need the right geometry, otherwise it's either really useful or completely useless.
True. But moving in to the last question here, again, I mentioned this is a little bit of a meme question, but we'll finish off the last round of play here with Jake's. And for those of you listening on audio, I'm very heavily using air quotes here, tactical crouch. It's a tea-bag. Bob, I don't even know how better to describe it. It happened in Overwatch League a couple of times last week. The tactical crouch was used after securing a kill at a opportune time. So, Bob, buy or sell the tactical crouch?
And what's weird is I actually watched him talk about this live on stream, and I sat there and thought to myself, man, Jake could sell horse manure as a cupcake. I mean, this guy is good, dude. Like, the league is so lucky to have Jake, because, I mean, I was literally sitting there going, oh, yeah. And then I had to catch myself and be like, no. But, I mean, he had me, man. He just, like, I was just agreeing with him as I was going through it, and then had to slap myself and bring myself back and be like, no, dude, you are BS right now. So I'm going to go sell. But he did say that it's a compliment, but it's still like looked upon as a bad thing. Just
it's definitely not a compliment.
But he said that he wouldn't even waste the time doing it to someone that he thought he could just beat. His explanation of it was he does it to someone that he feels is on his same level or better.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe if I heard him, I would buy it, but I'm not buying it.
I know, it's exactly, man. He just sells it, dude.
Hey Smith, are you buying this tactical crouch here, or are you selling it?
Oh, I hard buy it. Hard buy this thing. I love the BM. Are you kidding me? That's awesome. Okay, you want people to get in there and do bad things, like T.O. doing the eagle thing on the Dallas Star. Does anybody remember that? That was amazing. Okay, I hated him for it, but you gotta love to hate people. That's what makes this thing fun.
The Sharpie man.
You gotta love to hate people. When people do things like that, that means you get rivals. You want internal rivals. You want player rivalries. You want things like that. If you don't have that, then you're gonna hurt the league in general. Because sorry, we don't want everybody being like, oh, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Nobody cares about your feelings. Come on, have freaking rivalries. Have fun with this. Tear it up. Do it.
I got a hard buy A Smith on that one, but Pesto, what are your thoughts here? Buying or selling the tactical crouch?
I, for one, am thankful for Jake's contribution to leg health awareness and showing us proper squat technique. Seriously, though, I'm going to hard buy it. I think as long as you're only doing it occasionally, I think it's great. I think it showed how much that moment meant to him. It's not like he's doing this on every opponent on every game. So I'm sort of buying his explanation on the screen, even though I didn't hear it myself. I think that it's just a form of trash talk. And trash talk is something that you want to encourage within limits. I think that, as with any trash talk, it only matters if you can back it up with skill. It only matters if you're doing it occasionally. It's like the F word. If you say it every other sentence, people sort of tune it out and tune you out. But it shows how much that moment, that game meant to him. He cared, and he was popping off, and he in his exuberance, he was showing us proper squatting technique and emphasizing leg health. And you got to roll with that. And I'm really glad the league didn't punish him. I also think the league sort of went too heavy on profit for the middle finger. I think you got to let these teenagers express themselves. I think it makes a more exciting league. It makes the players more personable, and you gotta work with those.
Well, the only thing I'll say about the profit thing is that I wish they would have banned him at least for the stage playoffs against NYXL, but that's another. It would have been just a 1-game suspension, not even a regular season, just stage playoffs.
Possibly preparing them for network television, because that really wouldn't go over there.
Yeah, that's true. That's a little bit of a different situation. But Evan, last words here: buying or selling Jake's tactical crouch?
Sure. I'm gonna buy too. I mean, it just to back up basically what everybody's saying. I mean, it is the competitive nature of the game. It is fun. We're not seeing players. I mean, not just Jake, but just players in general teabag after every single kill. It really does kind of give you that like spike in the football when you get that touchdown sort of thing. Yes, you're going to get potentially some backlash for it, potentially find a crap ton of money, but you know what? You made a mark, and you made it known that, hey, I just dominated. And it's interesting with Jake, because I kind of to myself refer to him as like the American hero of Overwatch, So it's kind of cool to see who I would consider kind of like the Elvis, or like the poster child of the Overwatch League do something like that. And I don't know. Yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, we've all played competitive Overwatch. If you spend 10 minutes in a ranked game, it's eons worse than somebody hitting control on their keyboard, when they kill somebody. So I would say ultimately I buy it.
Long. Usually it's about 10 seconds in.
I would say if Blizzard doesn't begin addressing it, or if they make it known in their TOS of, hey, you're essentially a league employee, we're paying you, you're hired, you're here, you can't do this. I think until they say that, I'm all for it. I think it's cool. I think it's funny, and fans love it. Plus, Jake, the Jake lol spam is probably the #1 most typed thing in all of Overwatch League Twitch chat. Period. So let him teabag somebody.
True, definitely a lot of good points for there. Good points there. But that does bring us to the end of the regular season, or the regular end of stage for Around the Payload, and we'll be moving into the stage playoffs, if you will. But let's recap the scores very quickly. It was a super close one. We had Blazin' Bob, who just threw points away, saying to Fran at the beginning,
Forever
82.
Forever fourth. I'm going to trade hard, roll the montage, and I'll be back next time.
82 points. We had newcomer Evan put up an impressive 84 points here, and we've got our 2-stage finalists in Pesto and A. Smith, and we will move on to the final question here. So this one, of course, there's no points being given out. I'm going to give a question here. You're both going to choose an answer, and I get to personally choose who wins the show. So after flipping a coin and randomly choosing, there's never a coin being flipped. A. Smith, you are going to go first here, but the question is, which new OWL player, whether newly signed, newly traded to a new team, or just a player who is playing on a team that they didn't play on or play with in stage 1, which of those players is going to have the biggest impact for their team in stage 2?
All right, I'm gonna have to go with Rascal. Rascal goes to a team that is struggling but is not bad, which means they can turn around really quickly. I'm going to go with that because I think Rascal just he offers what they don't have, and it's a big missing hole in the Fuel's lineup right now. They don't have that good Genji player. They don't have that good projectile player, and that's something that's going to change everything for that team. It's a big hole that that team's missing. The other players that came in aren't things that the other team's missing. It's just things they're not as good at. It's a big hole in the Dallas team, and therefore they're going to change and you're going to see a more drastic improvement from Dallas than you're going to see from, say, like Fuel or Shanghai or those teams, because I don't think you're going to see a big change in the team. The level of play may go up, but the team rankings, I think, will go up more drastically with Rascal.
Good pick there. Pesto, the counterpoint.
You're right. They are filling a hole they didn't have. They also happen to win 2 championships on the tank meta without a Genji player. So I'm actually going to go with Awesome Guy for the Mayhem, because I think that I'm excited as heck for Seiya player. I think Logix would eventually get back, so it's less exciting as Awesome Guy. I think that all of a sudden you are taking a team that really didn't have all the pieces, and really, they forced a DPS player into the tank role because they wanted to play with him personally. You are replacing him with a dedicated tank that is going to put in the work and is going to turn around a struggling team that right now doesn't have much going for it. And I think that you are going to see Mayhem have a sea change, and it's going to be led at the helm by an awesome guy named Awesome Guy.
Oh, man. Both made really good points and really good jokes. This is a tough one for me, but I think I have to channel the inner meme in me, and that meme says, "Pick Rascal, you cowards." Yes! A. Smith, I'm giving this one to you. A. Smith, the
Burn blue.
Victory
next time
goes. I wish I could make you all winners, but I can't. A. Smith, you are the winner. This one, the board is yours. You can say, sell out, do what you need. The floor is yours.
Look, guys, that was a lot of fun. Y'all were very worthy competitors. I really respect all of these players. You need to go follow each of these guys on Twitter. Follow their reporting, their everything that they do. Go follow their podcast, do all of that seriously. But also, suck it, I won. Hey, in your face, burn blue, baby. What up?
Burn blue, burn blue.
In classic, almost truly sincere and nice outro fashion, we end with a very BM showing of leg.
A tactical crouch. A tactical crouch.
And we end with a literal teabag on stream. I don't know. Someone clip that. I don't know where any other podcast that you're going to see that. But, guys, that is going to be it. Thank you, everyone, for being on the show. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I will have all of the awesome social media stuff and everything for everyone in the description below on somewhere, or I don't know. You'll be able to find it for sure. But that is going to be it. Remember, you can check out all the stuff that High Noon Productions does over at highnoonpodcast.com. All the links and stuff are over there. But that is going to be it, guys. For Pesto, Evan, A. Smith, and Blazing Bob, I'm the Blevins, and we will see you guys next week around the payload. Bye-bye!